the legendary warrior cultures of history. Ever since the first caveman picked up a spear, the fate of kingdoms and empires has been forged by men who mastered its use, and as for some men, they have always been better at waging war than others. Spartans, a warrior race in ancient Greece, were arguably the greatest military culture in the history of warfare. Spartan boys were taken away from their mothers at the age of just 7 to be inducted into the Agoge, a brutal military academy where they spent the rest of their lives preparing for war. It is said that the only relief a Spartan was ever given from military training was when he was at war. Growing up in Sparta was no picnic, as the Spartan elders employed cruel and unique tactics to train their boys from a young age. They schooled their boys in the principle of survival of the fittest, but also in the survival of the sneakiest. Spartan boys were given minimal food and were encouraged to steal rations as long as they did not get caught, thereby separating the dumb and weak
from the strong and wise.
The men who excelled in training became part of the elite troop known as the hoplites.
Every Spartan hoplite wielded a long spear, short sword, and a small circular shield.
The principal Spartan tactic was the phalanx, which required highly disciplined and coordinated maneuvers only possible in practical battlefield conditions.
After lengthy and rigorous training, it was this very tactic used by the renowned 300 Spartan hoplites to defend the narrow pass of Thermopylae against 100,000 Persians for 3 days, according to written records by Plutarch.
Spartan mothers on the eve of war told their sons, "Spartan, come back with your shield or on top of it."
The Nosman Kampf is a cry that echoed across vast regions of coastal Europe, announcing the imminent arrival of a Viking raiding party.
While all Vikings were ruthless, among them were a separate breed of Norse warriors, the Berserkers. These warriors performed secret rituals and used substances to escape the realm of ordinary mortals.
They were immune to any pain and fatigue, charging as mad hounds into battle, fighting naked with no armor. The sight of even a small phalanx of berserkers leading an attack had the enemy simply dropping their weapons and running.
They didn't care much for strategy and politics, but simply went with the flow. While they were arguably more terrifying than any other warrior group, they were too dangerous for their own good. The berserkers' frenzy and savagery caused them to commit uncontrollable acts such as biting their shield and killing their own men in the heat of battle. As the name suggests, they went absolutely berserk. We interrupt this program to bring you Astra Gallery, our very own step-by-step guide to our content creation. Bring your creative ideas to life. Why look like a guy with a plan? From cinematic films and comic adventures to history and striking visuals, our tutorials make learning in-house techniques, industry prompts, and swift animation straightforward and enjoyable. Start now at astragallery.com and make your own stellar sagas. Knight Templars were the most unique and mysterious warrior group in history. Introduced first as a religious cult devoted to protecting the life of pilgrims visiting Jerusalem, they progressively expanded their duties to become combatants in Crusader wars and, rather surprisingly, also served as the world's earliest banking system. This strange arrangement came about because pilgrims would deposit their belongings to the order as credit. The Templar Order also received large sums of donations from Europe for their holy duties. With its clear mission and ample resources, the order grew rapidly. Templars were advanced shock troops in key battles of the Crusades. Their heavily armoured knights mounted on war horses would charge at the enemy ahead of the main Crusader army in an attempt to break opposition lines. They were trained to fight till death, as the Templar cross on their armour was a symbol of martyrdom. Their white mantle was so much a part of their life that they could neither dine nor speak with their brethren without adorning it. The Templar code of life was completely different from other military orders whose warriors were accustomed to fame and glory. Templars, on the other hand, were asked to live in poverty, completely devoted to God and religion, which is rather funny because the order as a whole was as rich as the Pope. Men were expected to be free of pride and arrogance upon joining the group. One had to shun all his material desires, ties with family were severed forever, and taking women for pleasure was forbidden. Although it wouldn't be surprising if they managed to get some action every now and then. While Knight Templars were the most conservative warrior group, the Immortals lived the dream of every ancient man. They were conspicuous for the large amount of gold they adorned as they indulged in pleasure, living a lavish lifestyle. Immortals was a name given by Herodotus to this elite infantry unit of 10,000 soldiers in the army of the Persian Empire. Their maintenance of this number led to their name, the Immortals. Every time an immortal was killed, wounded, taken ill, or retired, they were immediately replaced. The Immortals instantly removed their dead from the battlefield and showed no corpses to their enemies. This practice offered the illusion that these warriors were not mortals. No matter how many the enemies killed, their number would remain 10,000 strong. Their body armor comprised of overlapping plates of shining bronze and metal, with the Immortals' breastplates flashing in the sunlight. Many cities simply surrendered when they first saw them approach. Their main weapon was a spear 6 feet long, while their wicker shields were covered in leather. The Immortals would stay in operation as the elite unit of the Persian Empire until they met their end through a man more immortal than them, Alexander the Great. They were defeated at the hands of Alexander in the battle,